All right, Brian Baldinger joining us right now, and I'll tell you, I've always loved the videos, but there's a lot of really good Seahawks videos, whether it's Jalen Milroe, Gray Zabel. Baldy, you seem pretty enamored with a few of these guys here on the Seahawks team, huh?
Oh, well, good morning, guys. Well, how can't you be, honestly? I mean, they've all popped. And Gray, I think, is going to be exactly what they were hoping he was going to be. And I don't know, Jalen Milroe, Brock, your quarterback. I mean, I know that he has to improve his accuracy and decision-making and all that, but just the athletic ability and raw ability that he has, I think he has a chance to be really special. So, it's just it's everything. I think the team is set to have a good season. What they did to Kansas City and that second preseason game when they ran for 270 yards, and I know it's preseason and everything, but it was pretty effective with how they went about their business.
Yeah, nobody else in the preseason did anything close to that. As I was looking at all the running game numbers over the 3 weeks of the preseason, hard to do that. 48 for 268, almost 6 carry, and the way they move those guys. I look at it, Baldy, and you got Cross, you got Zabel, you got Jalen Sundell, Bradford, Abe Lucas. You've got the youngest offensive line in the NFL, has to be the youngest offensive line in the NFL. And is that crew not one of the most athletic, one of the fastest offensive lines as well?
Well, I think in today's world, Brock, you have to be athletic. First of all, Clint Kubiak is going to come in. He's going to run a lot of wide zone. But if you can't get to the second level in the run game and start picking off, linebackers and safeties, Fred Warner will make every tackle if you can't get to him. And you need to be athletic to get to those type of players at that level. And then there's just so much more you could do, it's just in the quick game that every team, basically has employed these days. You need your linemen to be able to get out there and start picking guys off, on the jet sweeps and the jailbreak screens and all those kind of things that are out there in every roster and every, offense right now. And so the more athletic you can be, that's great. And then you look at Cross and you look at Big Abe, and I think this is probably the third straight year that they're starting together. And so, they've got, although they're young, they're pretty experienced about how they go about their business.
So if Baldy could buy, I'm sorry, Salk, to cut you off. If Baldy could buy stock over the long-term career, or you take a percentage of any of those five's career earnings, whose are you taking?
I'd probably take Gray. I think he's just going to be we're going to be talking about him. We'll probably stop talking about him eventually, and he'll just, look up. He'll be in his 10th year, and he'll start at 160 games, and he's the foundation to everybody else around him at center, tackle, guard, whatever. He's just going to be a foundational piece. Whether Mike McDonald's here for a decade or not, or John Schneider is still here, I think Gray is going to be here as long as anybody in that organization right now.
So I wanted to come back to what you said about the second preseason game against Kansas City, because I was really taken with it, and I felt bad about that because it's a preseason game and you really shouldn't overreact to a preseason game, right? I don't know how many times we have to learn that as members of the media, like, oh my gosh, it just didn't mean anything. But I've just not really seen that level of commitment, Baldy. Every year we would hear here, oh, we want to run the football. We want to run the football. Cool. Well, you can't run the football if you don't run the football. You actually have to call running plays. Maybe you know this, maybe not. I don't know. I'm assuming you do. Having played in the league, you have to call running plays to run the football. And they did. And they kept calling them over and over and over again. They kept having success. And I guess I feel like that does mean something to me, even if it was just a preseason game.
Well, it does. And you're right. You got to caution, you got to be cautiously optimistic here about it. But, the one thing about running the ball 48 times in a preseason game is, you really can't practice like that. You can assimilate practice in the run game. You can have scrimmages, but it's kind of just that's a great chance to work on the run game and work on different types of runs and, work on moving big bodies up front in combo blocks and power run game and how these plays break for a running back. It breaks differently for Zach Charbonnet as it does for Kenneth Walker or, anybody else that's back there. And so I think it's just a great opportunity. So I give Mike credit for okay, we're able to sustain offense right here. Let's work on this right now because you can't do this in practice anymore. And so I think that was a part of it. And look, I mean, Kansas City was without Chris Jones in there. Nick Bolton wasn't there. I mean, some staples, but there was a lot of guys that are going to start for him. I mean, I saw Karlaftis out there, and, there's Menahu was out there. I saw starters out there. So it wasn't like they were going up against the B team in Kansas City. They were moving starting defensive linemen and linebackers for the Chiefs. So, I mean, you got to, give them some credit for what they did in that game.
So the other part of it then, in terms of their commitment to playing this style of football, is what they did in their roster decisions over the last few days. And, I mean, look, I think tight ends obviously have to play a big role in the types of tight ends you choose. But how about the fact that 4 of the 6, or maybe 3 of the 6 wide receivers they chose, it seems like they chose them specifically because of their physicality and their willingness and ability to block. How much of a difference can those types of decisions and the positions of tight end and wide receiver affect the running game?
Well, it's huge. I mean, the Rams have been at the forefront of having wide receivers block at the point, and you have one of the great ones that have been doing it in Los Angeles now on your team. But they were basically an 11-personnel team in Los Angeles that played like a 12-personnel team because the wide receivers were blocking at the point of attack or on the backside. And so you're able to really secure the line of scrimmage. And it's a big part of the run game when, you have big receivers, Jake Bobo, the rookie right now. Like, some of these guys are big. And, they don't have to knock people off their feet. That's not what they're being asked to do. But you got to be able to screen them. You got to stay attached to them. You got to interfere and make it difficult for them to get to the ball or find the ball. And it's a big part of what Clint Kubiak wants to do right now.
I love all this professional stuff, Baldy. I do. And in fact, I was watching an old Matt Hasselbeck highlight film on Twitter the other day, and a lot of you as a color analyst through the years on some of those big games in the 2000s, which was super fun. But as much as I enjoy the professional, I love the personal too. Can I ask you 2 personal questions?
Go ahead, Brock. Shoot.
What does Brian Baldinger do on his last free weekend until, I don't know, early March? What are you doing on this final weekend? No NFL ball.
Well, I'm on this balcony right now in the Nicoya Peninsula, and I'm watching the surfers off this break right now, and I'm just thinking about, getting out there on my boogie board right now and doing some body surfing right here. There's a lot of rocks out there, so I got to navigate it a little bit. I'm waiting for the tide to go out to see where they are. But, they have a good saying in the Nicoya Peninsula here, Brock, that bad roads bring good people. And so that's what we did. We navigated about 2 hours of bad road yesterday. We're sitting out here, and, either the surf wakes you up in the morning or the howler monkeys wake you up. One or the other gets you up at sunrise. So that's the answer to your question right now.
Okay, that's a good one. Bad roads bring good people. I think I'm going to write that one down in my little book here. That's number 1. Number 2 is a man that made a living for a long, long time moving another man against his will. How do you compensate that now in life? Is that where the spear fishing, is that where the fascination with big animals and the water comes into play? How does someone who made his livelihood and so much of your identity for those years of moving another man against his will, how does that show up in today's life?
Well, I mean, there is an excitement level that, gets your, raises your RPMs inside your body, when you see, I don't know, like tiger sharks coming from the depth, to a bait, like a little bait thing that you have drawing them to you. Like, that's pretty cool. There's going to be some lobsters that are going to be caught here in the next 2 days during some rip tides, but the rocks are like full of these lobsters. So you got to fight the currents and some of the visibility issues, but there's lobsters to be grabbed down there. And then when you throw them on the grill at night, and you have, a couple cold Imperials to wash it down, like that's a pretty good enjoyment right there.
Where is this?
I'm right here in Nasara, right here in the heart of the Nicoya Peninsula.
Where?
Costa Rica. Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Okay, I've been trying to look this up while you're talking. The only Nicoya island I could find was in Indonesia, and I was like, man, that would be impressive if we'd figured out the time difference enough to get you on at the right time. Costa Rica.
I do like Indonesia. But it's a 16-hour flight,
right?
To get there right now. And Bali's is like, it's worth it once you get there, but I just felt like, 3 hours out of Miami, we're in a good spot.
To bring it back maybe to Seattle for a moment, although the Costa Rica talk is great. One player we've not talked a ton about on our show, and it's probably a mistake because he was a top half of the first-round pick just a year ago, was Byron Murphy. What did you see last year from him, and what could he eventually turn into for the Seahawks?
Well, we didn't see a lot of him last year because Big Cat Williams stole the headlines every week with the way that he played. Oh, by the way, Big Cat is an unbelievable free diver, by the way. So, like, if he was here right now, he'd be in heaven. But he's playing football. But Byron, look, it takes, I don't care, pick a defense, pick Aaron Donald, pick any great defensive lineman. In the history of this game, it takes a year to figure things out. You leave the University of Texas, and you're a little bit undersized to begin with, and, you're trying to figure out blocking schemes and who you're going up against. It just takes a little while. Like, I expect Byron, I thought him and Johnny Newton, that's in Washington now, I thought they were pretty similar. Candidates coming out, kind of undersized, 3 techniques. But I thought Byron showed you great strength at the point. We got to see more in the pass game. We got to see him defeat some blocks up front right now and some double teams. So I feel like this, usually if guys are going to make a leap in their careers, it's going to be between their first and their second year when they have figured things out a little bit. They understand what it takes physically, what they need in their toolbox in order to win on Sundays. I feel like Byron Murphy could be one of those guys this year.
I want to let you get to the lobsters and the boogie boarding, so this will be my last question for you. And it kind of goes back to what Salk asked you at the beginning, how smitten, we all are with the Baldy breakdowns and everything you do online and all your work, especially at the line of scrimmage with all of your background there. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but where would the Seahawks rank when you get ready to watch your tape, do your breakdowns, get ready every Saturday or Sunday or Monday to do those things? Where would they rank amongst, I don't know, the peers in the NFL as like, ooh, this team is of great intrigue to me because I got to see what they're doing at the line of scrimmage?
There's a bunch of guys, Brock, honestly, that I get excited about when I turn a Seattle Seahawks game on. I mean, we haven't said anything about Witherspoon now in his third year, but, like, he could be Kyle Hamilton in this defense this year. I mean, he'll hit and strike anything that moves. Like, he's going to be all over the field. I think he's going to blow up this year. I'm a big fan of Big Cat. You can watch, I've been breaking that guy down for a decade now. He's amazing. I'm looking forward to watching Gray. I think there's going to be a package for Jalen Milroe. It's not a knock on Sam or anybody else, but I think they're going to get him on the field. I'm a huge Jake Bobo fan. I mean, just the name itself. Like, how can't you just let Bobo just roll off your tongue? Jackson Smith and Jigba's a great, router. There's a lot to be excited about when I turn Seattle. Seattle, San Francisco, week 1. It's going to be one of the first probably 4 games I watch on Monday morning that week, September 8th, after that game.
Yeah, it's funny that they're not getting a lot of national respect. It feels like the national media just sort of says, Gino to Darnold, no DK, forget it, and then that's like the end of the conversation.
Good. That's you want to be in that situation. You don't need to be talked about right now.
No.
They go out there and take care of business about San Francisco. People were like, oh, Seattle won 10 games last year. Oh, Seattle, they had this in the draft. I mean, there's going to be a time. And look, everybody starts off kind of the same. It's always a new year. In Philadelphia, it's a new year coming off the Super Bowl championship. At some point, though, and it happened last year too, at some point, this is either going to come together for Seattle and they're going to be a playoff team and you're going to see them string some W's together and look impressive, or it's not going to happen, or but at some point, if they're going to be a good team, we're all going to see it together.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure those are the things they're saying in the Nicoya Peninsula today, Brock. I think that just makes sense. Last thing, just because we can't have you on and not ask about this, and thank you to the 425 texter who brought this up. For all of those conversations about being physical, being big, running the ball, offensive line, can we just address the fact that this team has a fullback or 2 on their roster now? I mean, I don't know. Are we going to get Robbie Oots breakdowns? I hope so, because having a big old fullback and I-backs back there and pro sets, like, this is like a totally different thing now. I'm in love with it.
Well, they're a 2-back offense, and there's a big spot for Robbie in this offense right now, just the way there has been for, Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco and other guys around the league right now. I like 2-back offenses. I like being able to line up in I formation and knock people off the ball. it's always that formation. You can back me up on this, Brock, but that I formation should never, ever go out of style. Like because if you ever want just a reset button, a reset play, get up in I formation and tell your guys, go win the line of scrimmage. All right, we're going to put Robbie at I. We're going to put Zach or, Kenneth at the tailback, dot the I right here. Let's go knock people off the football and have some fun. That is a reset button that I wish all teams could do. And if you got to get down to the goal line and get nasty and physical, that's the formation to do it in. And so, it excites me that I'm going to be able to break that formation down in Seattle this year.
Who would you start a running back?
I don't know. If Kenneth is healthy, it's kind of hard to keep him off the field. But Zach had a great preseason. I think that guy's a quality player. I like big backs. Zach's a big back, but he's got light feet. It's a good 1-2 punch right now.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Hey, Baldy, we appreciate it. Good luck with the Tiger Sharks and the rest of the folks.
Be careful with your fingers down there with them lobsters, all right, Baldy? Be careful with those suckers.
Yeah, no, I got my the leather gloves on right now. So I'm good. Like they can attack me all they want. They're not going to get through that.
Can you? The finger gets into the glove? Okay.
And it's a little bit of an issue.
I don't think so.
It looks a little bit more like a mitten than a glove.
You're the best, man. Thanks so much. This is great. Really good stuff. Keep the breakdowns coming. There's Brian Baldinger, of course, Brock, joining us from the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica.
I feel a little guilty.
Taking him away from his vacation.
Seriously.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.